Here we go. All right, well, let's pick up where we left off on Thursday, which was with Christopher Columbus. So there were four. When we started chapter 2 on Thursday, when I saw you lovely people last, we talked about 4 distinct reasons for exploration and expansion to the New World. You can give me one of the reasons we decided to go west.
Religion.
Very good. Religion. Very nice. There's one. You can give me one more of the 4.
Fear of disease.
Disease. Excellent. Very good. Definitely looking for gold. You're still on the right track due to economy. Excellent. Very, very good. And then fear of military, right? God, gold, glory. We need somewhere else to go for a variety of reasons, whether it's fear of military, whether it's fear of kicking in, whether it's starting over, whether it's going somewhere where we don't have to worry about being persecuted and executed due to our religious beliefs, right? It is time to go somewhere else and start over. But again, don't forget how many countries in Europe are still economically devastated. So, it's one of those things I ask you guys a question. Everyone's thinking of the answer, but I know speaking out in class is not fun. For some, you all have the answer, and someone says it, and you're like, oh, thank God I was right. I've been there. I've done it. Everyone in Europe is thinking the same thing, but no one wants to be the first to take the risk. No one wants to be the first to speak out. No one wants to be the first to say anything. But then once one person does, oh my God, thank God it was okay for me to think that way too, right? Okay, it's okay for me to be on that bandwagon.
Martin Luther.
Just like Martin Luther. Excellent comparison. So guess what? We will have the first to venture out across the Atlantic, not sailing for his country, by the way. Christopher Columbus, who will sail for Spain, but he is not Spanish. He is Italian. Born in Genova, Italy. His father was a sailor. He grew up as a child on boats, learning the trade, learning the skill. He himself was very, very well versed in terms of navigation in the sea. Became a sailor on his own right by the time he was only like 14 years old. And then all these colorful stories. By the time he's this young man, he's got all these colorful stories of his adventures at sea. Some of them could be seen as a little far-fetched. Throw that up there. Firstly, one of his favorite tales to tell was he was at sea, he and his crew were at sea, and his ship got attacked by pirates. Because guess what? Pirates have been around for the test of time. Pirates, I mean, not the Johnny Depp type of pirates. Best kind, right? But pirates have been around since the test of time. His ship is attacked by pirates. There's this great naval battle between the two ships. And unfortunately the pirates are able to board the ship and they're attacking the crew, they're killing off the crew. So to save himself from being killed off by these pirates, he jumps overboard into the ocean. Okay, except you're in the middle of the ocean, so was that a smart idea? Don't know. However, according to him, there was a piece of passing driftwood that was floating by. He was able to use as a boogie board and safely make his way back to land. I mean, I don't know why a dolphin didn't just swim by and grab onto the dorsal fin and the dolphin pulled him back to land. Gosh only knows. It's quite the colorful story. So, stories are not though. He is insanely experienced. He knows what he's doing. And he's a huge fan of this man by the name of Marco Polo, who, as we talked about before, had ventured out into the world because we knew there had to be more out there. It couldn't be just us. We knew there was other land out there to be had. He filmed the West Indies. He charted it in his books. He basically said, follow this path and look what you will find. Talks about gold and spices and resources there for the taking and land. So that is the goal. We need land. We need gold. We need resources. Almost says, someone's got to be the first. Fine, I'll do it. He goes to King and Queen of Italy. Asks for expedition. They have no money to do it. He is turned out. He goes to King and Queen of France. Asks for an expedition. They have no money. It's too big of a risk. He is turned down. He goes to King and Queen of freaking England. They have no money. He is turned down. And almost as a last resource, he goes to the King and Queen of Spain, King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella, who he was almost turned down as well because of money. But while the country doesn't have money, Isabella, Queen Isabella and her family are well off. And she sees the need, the want, and the reasons behind it. And she will tell her husband, I'll finance it. I'll put up the money. Give him permission. I'll pay for it. She changes her husband's mind. And he is given, finally, permission by the King and Queen of Spain to venture off across the Atlantic. No, these are not the actual ships. Yes, that question has been broached. Spoiler alert, they did not have color photography in 1492. However, they were they would not be, you think of these big, massive naval grade ships and then, et cetera, et cetera. They would have been tiny. Tiny, 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 with as much resources and supplies as you can stock on that thing, and as many people as you can fit on there too, crammed in like rats, sleeping amongst the rats on the ships. So tiny, 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 but obviously blazoned with the seal of their country, right? And someone go back to first grade. Someone like go and impress me. Who can give me the name of one of the ships? Huh? I love you so much. That's actually the Pilgrims. That's up and coming. Little soon. The Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria, right? Very good. Now, history conflicts at exactly how long he was at sea for. Your book says 33 days. So guess what? We go with 33 days in the PowerPoint. However, and I tried to pull it up yesterday and I'm afraid they freaking deleted it. I'm going to try for a brief moment to try and find it again. But this video that I've shown for 10 years, all of a sudden not there. Anyway. I'm going to get creative here now. And if I can find the video, it says in the video he was at sea for 56 days. So there's some contrasting views on how long he was at sea for. If you look online, you'll see different numbers. So long story short, I'll never ask you on an exam because there's no concrete answer. But we do know, though, whether it was 3 weeks, whether it was 8 weeks, whether it was 4 weeks, whether it was 6 weeks, he landed in the same spot. He thought he had perfectly charted and followed the path of Marco Polo. However, he had not. While he believed he was in the West Indies, he was where? The Bahamas. Very good. The Caribbean. He will meet an Eastern Woodland tribe named the Taino. And Chris, who will, by the way, he will actually, just in case I can't find the video, upon arriving at this island, he will name Espanola, the first island he encounters in the Caribbean. He will run the Santa Maria aground on the rocks, and she's sinking. And these Indians, who have never seen Europeans before in their dang life, the chief, Wanaconagari, sends his Indians out in boats to save Columbus and his crew from drowning and rescue them and bring them back to land. And Columbus and the Spanish, for the first time, encounter the Native Americans, who, since he's in the West Indies, he assumes that's why they become nicknamed Indians, right? Here's the kicker. We all know most of that story, right? Who can tell me what Columbus does next once he's in the Bahamas? What happens next? What does he do once he's there?
Captures 2 Indians.
A few. Most people don't know, right? Which is kind of sad that in schools, not y'all's fault, in schools, that's where history gets cut off in terms of him. And obviously Christopher Columbus Day was originated in this country and this national holiday in his honor because he was the, and I say in huge quotes, first to discover North America. By the way, he was not. The Vikings discovered it hundreds of years before him. But, he sets the precedent of a European expansion to North America. It's the foundation of, North American history. Does he deserve to be studied, be in history, be remembered for it? 100% hands down no brainer. Does he deserve a national holiday in his honor? That is one of the most controversial issues in this country in terms of, in the subject matter in the last couple of years. Because most people today who finally, when the evidence has come to light of what he did and how he did it and what happened to these people once he was there, nobody who's fixing to do what he does, a lot of people feel, deserve a national holiday in their honor. Do we know what genocide is? What is genocide? Bingo. It's basically, mass murder, extinction of a people race. Christopher Columbus is the father of genocide. He will absolutely obliterate, rape, beat, enslave, torture, execute sick dogs who are trained to rip into and kill people, sick them on the Indians. What he's fixing to do was so brutal, so unnecessary, so horrific. People say he should not have a national day in his honor. Our national government has let it be a state-by-state basis. You can decide for yourselves whether you want to recognize it or not. And there are 4 or 5 states. California is not, Nevada is not, Utah is not. I believe Kansas has chosen not to. I'd have to go back and confirm that. I know they were talking about it, but there are several states who, I mean, you can't erase the holiday, but they've renamed it. It's no longer Christopher Columbus Day. It's Indigenous People Day, in honor of the victims who were so brutally enslaved, beaten, raped, tortured, and executed. So there's a lot that has not been taught about him up until this point. If I can find my video, I'm going to be so happy. Could not find it yesterday. Bear with me for a moment. We're going to try this thing again. Oh, come on. So here's half of it. I need the third part too. Please, 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 please.
Maybe a long time.
Well, it's trying to load.
I have never heard of people.
What the?
Oh, it's things very.
It was the longest going U.S. history, spanning the parallels of the Alamo, the Mexican-American War, and the Civil War.
No, that's not it.
There are 500 Nations videos that says video belongs to the country.
Well, that's from this one specific playlist. That's not from the whole thing. And it played. I mean, it was playing. It's just not what I wanted. Alright, because I need 2 and 3 of 4. So let's see if we can get... So we'll start with this one, which is the first half.
Welcome back to 500 Nations. First encounters between Europeans and Indian people are some of the most famous and important events in world history. Most of us can recite the names of Christopher Columbus's ships, the year he first landed in the New World, and how he mistakenly called the people he encountered their Indians. But few of us know the names of the people who greeted Columbus, or much about the lives they lived. How did they greet the strangers? Were they treated like gods? Were they feared? Were they attacked? Or were they treated as a new and exotic trading partner by people who had a long history of dealing with other seafaring cultures? The first meeting between European and American worlds would bring 2 very different cultures into conflict. We take you now to the Caribbean, where the rough road of contact begins. 500 Nations continues with a clash of cultures.
How much damage? How many calamities, disruptions, and devastations of kingdoms? How many struggles have perished in the Indies over the years? And how unjustly? How many unforgivable sins? Dr. Rodriguez. In December of 1492, 3 ships under the command of Christopher Columbus approached the second largest island in the world. For 8 weeks, Columbus had traveled from the Bahamas to Cuba, finally reaching the site of modern-day Haiti and the Dominican Republic. The island he would name Hispaniola. The island was then populated by a little known as the Taíno. One region was controlled by the paramount chief, Okanagarian. On Christmas Eve, while coasting along the shore, Columbus's flagship, the the Santa Maria ran perfect.
When Wakanagari learned the news, he sent all his people from the town with many large canoes to unload everything from the ship. So great was the care and diligence which that king exercised, and he himself was as diligent unloading the ship as in guarding what was taken to land, in order that everything would be well cared for.
Grateful for the island leader's help, Columbus accepted his invitation to come ashore.
The admiral left to dine on shore and arrived at the time when 5 kings had come, all subject to the one who was called Wakanagari. Wakanagari came to receive the admiral as soon as he had reached land, and took him by the arm.
Columbus was immediately struck by the beauty of Taino life.
The king observes a very wonderful estate
in such a dignified manner that it is a pleasure to see.
Neither better people no man can there be.
The houses in the villages are so pretty,
They love their neighbors as themselves.
and they have the sweetest speech in the world.
They are gentle, and they are always laughing. Christopher Columbus.
As a token of gratitude for the rescue of his men and supplies, Columbus presented Wakanagari with a red cape, a prestigious item among the Taino elite. In return, Wakanagari gave Columbus a golden tiara he wore on his head. To Wakanagari, it was a fair exchange, a gesture of mutual respect and recognition, the opening of trade between equals. To Columbus, it was a crown, a symbol of authority. Wakanagari was surrendering his lands and people to Spain. But Columbus was not simply looking to rule. He saw something much more valuable to his future. He saw gold, the prize he could take back to his sponsors in Europe. There was wealth to be had, and to the Europeans at the time, wealth belonged to those strong enough to take it.
Now I have ordered my men to build a tower or a fort. Not that I believe it to be necessary, but it is obvious that with these men that I bring, I can subdue all of this island, since the people wicked and without arms. But it is right that this tower.
Of course, that's smart. I do have an idea. It's not going to let me. Like, why won't it just go to 3 or 4? That's not an option. Stop. Stop. Why is there not 3 or 4? That's cool. I'm gonna get creative here. If I have to buy it, I have to buy it. That's fine. It's 2 measures. That's not how you spell it. Can't spell. Right. Really, it's not here either. Yes, here we go. What? Okay. Can I not get it on Prime? VHS. Well, damn, I might have to explain it to you. Which drinks. Oh, what? Oh, oh! Found it! They call it 3. I don't care. That'll work. Yes.
Columbus was immediately struck.
I'm so happy right now.
Well,
Okay.
it was a fair exchange, a gesture of mutual respect and recognition, the opening of trade between peoples. To Columbus, it was a crown, a symbol of authority. For Juan Garrido was surrendering his lands and people to Spain. But Columbus was not simply looking to rule. He saw something much more valuable to his future. He saw gold, the prize he would take back to his sponsors in Europe. There was wealth to be had, and to the Europeans at the time, wealth belonged to those strong enough to take it.
Now I have ordered my men to build a tower and a fort. Not that I believe it to be necessary, but it is obvious that with these men that I bring, I can subdue all his islands, since the people need it and without arms. But it is right that this tower be made, so that the love and fear may love God.
I'll leave this one.
Into this world, Columbus returned in November 1493 with a military flotilla of 17 ships. Under his command were armor-clad soldiers, mounted cavalry, attack dogs, and guns. The Spanish conquest of the Caribbean began. Gold mines were opened, and the Taino were enslaved, forced to mine the ore. A Spanish priest, Bartolomé de las Casas, who accompanied Columbus on his second voyage, spoke out against the cruel treatment of the Taino.
It is not possible to account 100th part of what I have seen with my own eyes. A man can mean to have a body of iron to undergo the labor they endure in getting gold out of the mountains. They must delve and search 100 times over in the inner parts of the mountains till they dig them down from top to bottom. They must work the very rocks hollow. Bartolomé de las Casas.
Epidemics and famine swept the island. Yet the Spanish continued to demand that the beleaguered Taino supply them with both food and labor. Garrisons were strung across the island to fortify the gold fields. When resistance sprang up, Columbus sent out military units to terrorize towns into submission.
They were so relentlessly persecuted and pursued with their wives and children up into the hills so tired, hungry, and harassed. And there went with them disease, death, and misery, just as if they had been killed in the wars. They died of hunger and sickness that surrounded them, and the fatigue and oppression that followed. After 1496, no more than a third remained of the multitudes that had been on the island.
Taino's suffering was so severe that thousands took their own lives rather than submit.
Wherefore many went to the woods there to hang themselves, after having killed their children, saying it was far better to die than use miserably. Some threw themselves from the high trees down the precipices, others jumped into the sea, and others stabbed themselves. Rezon, soldier of Spain.
Some escaped into the mountains, including Wakanagari, the paramount chief who had befriended Columbus. He soon died a homeless wanderer.
Just unnecessary. Like, unbelievably unnecessary. He says it himself. You know, when he starts to build the first fort. Not because he's building this fort, not because he believes it's necessary, but with fear and loathing, they will obey. Alright? And it just starts his conquest of the Caribbean, which he just absolutely made it his goal to enslave and obliterate these people and take what was theirs when, I'm not worried about that one. When what they wanted, considering what they wanted, you really think the Indians would have put up that much of a fight? In fact, while there's so many money's going to the Pacific Greece for Spain, not only will they receive land, they'll completely control the Caribbean within the space of a little over a decade, about 15 years. But the amount of gold they find is insane and will stabilize their economy. But it's the way he went about it that's the problem. Because guess what? The French are going to find something, not gold, but it's something just as profitable, and how they make their money and how they interact with the Indians is not any different. I mean, they actually had, you saw, and they had the pictures of it, they actually had attack dogs. It was kind of like dog fighting, which is awful, so we won't even go there. But they were trained to attack other dogs, right? Favorite dogs. You had dogs in this day and age that were trained to attack human beings. And they would take them off the leash and stick them on these people. And with the goal of sheer torture and, execution. And, I mean, it's just, and this goes on for years and years and years. If you really want to look into the heart of everything he did and everything that he did, unfortunately, achieve and succeed in doing, that is where the problem of, does he really deserve a holiday in his honor? Now, is he the only one to do this? Heck no. But we don't have a Hernan Cortez Day, or a Ponce de Leon Day, or a Francisco Coronado Day. So does he absolutely deserve credit throughout history? Hell yeah, hands down. Does he deserve to be recognized and studied and remembered? Oh my dear God, yes. But should we really celebrate? And that's, as history is moving forward, kind of where it lies. Because some still believe we should. I mean, he set the precedent. He set the standards and opened the door for the birth of the United States. So, we still do, right? Texas still recognizes it. Some states have not, though. And our national government has allowed it to be a state-by-state personal bias of how you choose to recognize the holiday. What do y'all think? Do you think we should, or should we change the meaning of the day?
Stay the holiday, but bring more awareness to, yes, he's the reason that we're here, but it's not a fairy tale thing that he did out here.
And that's an excellent point. That could happen. Keep it, but don't, and that's a wonderful way to look at it. Maybe keep the holiday, but don't keep it in the glory of the man. Keep it in reality of the man, what he did do, but everything else that he did as well, and recognize all sides of the situation. That's not a bad idea. It's just interesting. interesting. It's very, very interesting. But obviously, at the present time, we'll make him this hero, this icon over in Europe. Obviously, he will be given a title by the King and Queen of Spain, which is a huge honor in that day and age. He will be titled Admiral of the Ocean. It's about the highest praise your monarch could give you. But after about 20 years, not only Hispaniola, but the entire Caribbean, all the Bahamas, we have under Spanish control. So what else? That can't be all there is, right? If there's a set of islands, surely there's more past it, right? What else is there? So the second individual, the second Spaniard, will be sent across the Atlantic to bypass the Caribbean and see what else we can find. And that is, in fact, Hernan Cortez, who will sail around the Caribbean, off the coast of Florida, and long story short, hit land in present-day Mexico. Which, when he lands in present-day Mexico, who is the tribe that he is going to primarily encounter? The Aztecs, right? And the Aztecs are just like the Eastern Woodlands, aren't they? They are known to be so beloved, and so kind, and so welcoming, and so friendly, right? Hell no, right? Just the opposite. However, when the Spanish do encounter Aztecs, guess what? Aztecs went idiot. Aztecs are kind. They are welcoming. They're excited to see them. They're almost like little kids in a candy store, per se, and they welcome the Spanish into their camps, welcome them in their homes. Cortez stays in the palace of the Aztec chief Montezuma, technically the second, but the famous Montezuma throughout history, Montezuma the second. What a drastic change. These people who are known to, they would rather scalp you than look at you. If they come after you, you're not going to survive. They are the most brilliant Native American empire to ever set foot on the North American continent. Why such a drastic change in behavior?
I thought Cortez was a god. I thought he was Quetzalcoatl or Kukulkan, depending on the translation.
You'll say that again, do what?
They thought he was a god.
Not just Cortez, yes, but the Spanish. They believed, because Aztecs believed in their religion, they absolutely believed that their gods had promised to one day appear before them in human form. And you think about, so I mean, they believe that one day, I mean, it's kind of like, Christian faith, one day Jesus will come back. They believe, Aztecs believed one day their gods have promised they will appear before them in human form. And they've just been waiting for that day. And you think about what the Europeans look like. Again, Native Americans have never seen anybody that don't look like them, right? There are people, their race, their culture. Dark skin, dark eyes, dark hair. Here come these people who are white. So much lighter skin, right? So foreign. But not only that, have different color hair. Some have black, some have brown, some have blonde, some have red, some might have sandy, different shades. Different color eyes. Blue, green, hazel, dark, light. Not only that, but they're wearing armor, right? Aztecs don't have a freaking clue what armor is. To them, it's just the silver that gleams and it glistens and it shines in the sun. And obviously, there is a language barrier problem. And they said, oh my God, it has finally happened, right? They absolutely believe these are their gods who have finally appeared before them in human form. And they're so excited, right? May they welcome them in. They treat them as honored guests. And language is a barrier problem. Human interaction and human culture is universal. Kindness, excitement, etc., etc. The way we interact with each other, human interaction is universal. And unfortunately, bless their heart, the Aztecs aren't going to figure out that they're wrong. These aren't their gods until it's way too late. Why, the moment they step in to the Aztec camp, the heart of the Aztec society, Cortez, they're already soaking everything in, right? They're paying attention. They're taking notes. They're already preparing for what they have to come, right? And within 2 years' time, Cortez and his men will have literally obliterated the greatest Native American empire North America has ever seen. 2 years sounds like a long time, but don't forget, there are millions. They've got to obliterate millions and millions and millions of people. The Spanish are greatly outnumbered. Millions of people they have to wipe out. And they do it in 2 years. It's just staggering to a sense. How? These 4 reasons rolled together. Obviously, so this is when horses will first ever, as we all know, horses were brought over to North America. This is when Cortez is the first Spaniard to bring horses to the North American continent. So, and again, obviously now Indians will eventually get their hands on horses too. Steal them, horses run off, come wild Mustang herds, etc., etc. But primarily, in that 2 year span, we have horses, they don't. And our weaponry is superior. You know, they've got bows and arrows, which are up to 7, 8 times faster to load than a musket. But we also have bayonets. We have swords. We have spears. We have guns. We have horses. So our weaponry is superior. Once our heart, the naiveness of the Aztecs will play in our favor. Because kind of like Columbus came back with 16 ships in that first wave, and then more and more would come after. Aztecs had no idea until it's too late that these were gods, right? They were people, and then they had no idea that this war could show up at any point. They didn't know to defend themselves against it. They didn't know to look out for it. And this will absolutely, the naiveness of them will be a factor in the fact how quickly they were obliterated. Disease, this is the first time disease is used as a true-blown military weapon. Because we've obviously, considering what happened with Columbus when the Native Americans in the Bahamas were introduced to diseases, we know now that, the fact they have no immunity to it. Well, now we're going to use it as a weapon. This is when we start to hand out those blankets that people who have died from smallpox, died from measles, died from typhus have been wrapped in. And we're just handing them out in the days of kindness, as a gift, right? So a disease alone, smallpox alone will kill off over 1 million Aztecs in a year. But this might be the smartest, because we talked about that 1,000 years before slavery was even a European concept in North America. It was already being embraced. The institution was already there, right? It had been permeated by the Aztecs. And again, language is a problem, but the Spanish, as this goes on, this 2-year time span comes on, missionary and the Aztecs are enslaved. Missionaries will be brought over to force them to speak our language so we can communicate, right? God forbid we learn theirs, nope, they have to learn ours. And of course, the raping, the scuffing, the enslaving, the beating, the torturing, just the brutal treatment, everything, it's all justifiable because we're also going to save their poor pagan souls. We're bringing these missionaries over who will basically tell them, you will convert to our Christianity, or you will convert to the Catholic faith. We're going to teach them the ways, but we're going to save their poor pagan souls and make sure that they're Catholic. Learn about Catholicism. And it's in this time frame why originally communication is a problem, human interaction is not. And the slaves are so doted upon. They're so, you poor things, you've been through a hell of an ordeal, right? And they're taken care of, and they're pampered, and they're brought out of slavery for the moment, and the trust is gained, of the slaves, to the Spanish, and they become loyal. And when communication does become somewhat of a relevant possibility, the point is going across, you poor things, you've been through a hell of an ordeal. Tell you what, obviously it's clear what we want to do. We want to obliterate your captors, and you know them better than anybody. You know how they fight, you know how they think, you know how they operate, you know how they handle all of this. Give us insight into their military prowess. Tell us what to expect. Tell us what they do. Tell us what we're going to be walking into. Give us the secrets of how they form and organize. Help us beat them. And when we do, well, then you poor things, in exchange for your help, we'll give you your freedom and we'll let you go home. Because, my God, you've been through a hell of enough, right? And again, it's like when you're a kid and your parents tell you something. If all you've known from people are kindness and you trust them and they're going to make you this deal, well, bless your little naive hearts, you're probably going to believe it, right? But does it happen? No. As soon as the Aztecs, we have a whole new Aztec slaves are just turned into, they go from being Aztec slaves to Spanish slaves. But within 2 years' time, all of present-day Mexico belongs to the Spanish. And again, don't forget the gold. The gold that has been found, the wealth that has been found, the land that has been found, the riches that have been found. Well, holy freaking crap, that means everywhere in this part of the world, there's going to be gold to be had, right? So, you don't have to write them down right now if you don't want to. They will be on your review, but long story short, these are 2 men that you will be reading about on your own in your book. Francisco Coronado and Hernando de Soto, who we have complete control of the Caribbean, we have complete control of Mexico. But again, and we found just wealth and gold to be had and resources to be had. So that has to be everywhere, right? So these 2 men, long story short, will be sent over after Cortez in the mid-1500s, starting about the 1520s, actually more like 1530s, but again, you'll see in your book. They will be sent to Mexico. They're the first Spaniards to come into the heart of Mexico and go north into Texas, into present-day Texas, and then they will split. One will go all the way to Southern California. The other will go all the way east, through Louisiana to about Georgia area, with the goal of finding gold, but also claiming land in the name of Spain, right? Is Louisiana, Georgia, and especially Texas known for just being overwhelmingly flowing in gold? No, they're not going to find any gold. They're going to find turquoise. They might find some fool's gold, find a lot of Indians along the way, but no gold. However, so they don't find any gold, and with these two men, the interest in Spain has in North America will kind of come to an end because they're not finding the wealth they expected to find at this point. However, from Southern California to Georgia, down in the Caribbean, not only have they found millions and millions and millions of dollars of gold, how much land do they have now, right? Spain is content. Spain is satisfied with what they've got. And again, you're doing these on your own, so I'm going to go to here. Spain has absolutely come out of this thing with everything they hoped. And there are other countries over in Europe who are absolutely desperate, I should say, to get a piece of the pie. This is in the day and age. So we do know that there's obviously more land for the taking. We don't know how much. North America has not been mapped. People in Europe know there's land. But, I mean, Spain is absolutely on this just tirade, right? And nobody knows how much more land Spain is going to go after. Nobody knows how much more land there technically is to be had. And so there's this fear, this, you know, if we don't get over and get a piece of the pie, we're sunk. Spain's going to take it all. So it's going to light this fire under a couple other countries, such as France, right? Slaves, or Native Americans, were not just enslaved by the Spanish inside North America. Native Americans will also be sent back to Europe and sold into slavery there. Now, France, in this part of their history, are very anti-slavery. But that does not mean that they were being sold in England. It does not mean they were being sold in Spain, other parts of Europe. And again, if you're enslaved in another country and you don't speak the language, and you're being ordered to do things in a language you don't understand, and when you don't do things, you're getting punished and you're getting beaten for it, you figure out how to communicate pretty damn fast, right? Well, there's a lot of people who are just not taking notes today. If you want the PowerPoints, I do suggest you do. Just throwing that out there. But there's the Indians who will learn somewhat of European languages, as of of their culture and who they are and where they come from. Long story short, stories of a bridge that the Native American ancestors walked across. Native Americans back in the ancient times walked across an ocean and got to North America. Well, holy crap, what does that mean? That means there's a damn land bridge out there somewhere, right? There's a physical piece of land connecting two continents so you could just walk over, right? The fact that it was ice, the fact that it happened in an ice age, the fact that by now it's melted, all of that is lost out in translation. So this poor man is sent out into the Atlantic to go find that land bridge. He's sent out to go find the fountain of youth, right? It don't exist, people. So he is at sea for months. Don't you know a little bit bad for him? This is just my God bless his heart. He's at sea for months and months and months and months looking for this bridge that he's never going to find. But when he doesn't find it, he does discover something else. He is the reason France will settle where? Where did the French settle in North America? Canada. This is the man credited with why the French settled in Canada, right? Because he will see land, there's land off on the horizon. Maybe this is the land bridge, right? It's not, but it's land for the taking. There's nobody there. And it's beautiful. Canada is absolutely beautiful, and the coasts are navigatable by boat, or by ship, I should say. And it's there for the taking, and the natural resources are great. So he goes back to France, tells of his findings, and next thing you know, France decides it's time to go found their own colony in the New World, right? So, Jacques Cartier is the first Frenchman to ever found a colony inside North America. Your book gives him a lot of credit for discovering things like the St. Lawrence River, which is important. It's going to be an important waterway as we move forward. I think more importantly than that, though, not only is he founding the first ever French colony, he's the first Frenchman to ever have interaction with Native Americans. They encounter a tribe known as the Micmac tribe. Again, Eastern Woodland, friendly, curious, but welcoming, open, to, these newcomers who look so different than them, and there should be a lot of suspicion and red flagging, maybe you would think, but nope. And this is where everything differs, because France, by the way, will settle all of the Canadian region. They will as much land as they could possibly want. They will claim the name of France. They will build colony after colony, and they will gain all the land at their disposal that they could possibly want. But on top of that, they will discover something. There's no gold in Canada, but they will discover something that will make France just as much money as gold did for Spain. Fur. 3/5 of the food found across the world today was found in North America. You don't think there's all sorts of furry woodland animals that are being discovered for the first time in North America? Indian are your prime people to help you get your hands on fur, right? So a barter, instead of enslaving them, forcing them to hunt, brutalizing these people with the goal of wiping them out in complete domination, they form a relationship, a genuine, actual friendship. And this bartering system is created between the two, which, pots and pans and spoons and things that are very, just cheap French products are exchanged for these fur, these pelts, that over in Europe, you could put whatever freaking price tag you wanted to on them and you could keep them on the shelf. Furs turned into gloves, hats, scarves, decoration, blankets, etc., etc. There's nothing prettier than a mink fur coat, which are still crazy expensive. What about a skunk coat? It's beautiful. The fur is beautiful. That jet black, that white, so skunk pelts were insanely popular. And by the way, I may or may not know from personal experience, they're also very soft. Skunks are incredibly soft. They're like bunny rabbits. I'm just saying, if it's 4:30 in the morning and you get to the barn to feed one morning, you go into the feed room and there's a trash can, one of the lids off the feed containers is on the ground. You're thinking, damn raccoons. And in the dark, you reach in to grab the feed scoop, and you don't grab the feed scoop, you grab something that's alive. It starts squirming and freaking out in your hand. You're like, blah! Next thing you know, the room smells. They're very soft. I'm just throwing that out there. But, fur. The French will be responsible for the fur business, the fur industry over in Europe for many, 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 many years. And on top of that, not only as because it's men that come over, right? The Spanish, Native American women are beautiful. Spanish thought they were beautiful too, but Spanish kind of took what they wanted, when they wanted, how they wanted, their own way, right? We all get where I'm going. With the French, you see intermarrying. You see wooing, you see pursuing, you see courting, just like they would women over in Europe. You see a lot of French and Indians, combining their cultures, combining their civilizations, and living amongst each other and just forming a family relationship. And this family kind relationship, this bartering system, is going to be just as profitable in every way for France as everything was for Spain. Meaning, what Spain did and how Spain treated the Native Americans, so necessary, right? France proved that. But different culture, different mentality, and changed their own. But now France has settled all up in Canada. They're going to continue to grow and become more culturally diverse and expand throughout the Canadian region. Spain, again, has not basically come out to the world and said, yeah, we're done, right? Because they don't want to be smart. So Spain is all from Georgia down, from Texas down, from Louisiana down, etc., etc. And again, we know there's land in between, but no mapping has been done. Europe, other countries in Europe don't know, and again, we don't know how vast the continent is. There's not been mapping been produced yet. So there are one other country who's freaking out. Again, Christopher Columbus offered them the same deal. Don't you know, they're like, damn, we should have taken that deal. But England is now freaking the freak out to get over and get a piece of the pie before France and Spain gobble up whatever is left, right? The need for it is great. The money for it is still non-existent, but we're in this panic. And so as a country, England is broke as a duck. That doesn't mean you don't have aristocrats. You don't have families that are personally well off, right? And that's what you see here. Elizabeth I, who we'll talk a lot about in chapter 4, the Virgin Queen, is queen of this day and age. And she will be approached by an aristocrat, a patriotic aristocrat by the name of Sir Walter Raleigh, who will offer her a deal. I mean, he is loyal to the king, well, at this point, queen, and country, and he offers to be the first to set up, or to finance and set up an English colony in the New World. The need is great, he can help, a deal is made. Long story short, he is willing to put his own money into this expedition, put his own, invest his own money into building the first ever colony, but he's not going to do this out of the goodness of his heart and his patriotic appeal. Obviously, if he's going to take the risk to put his money into this thing, he wants something back. So, when the first colony is hopefully successful, as we're imagining it's going to go, and it starts making money, well, he's the primary investor in that colony, right? So for the test of time, the money that colony makes, he will always get a return on it, right? He's going to get a return on his investment. So it could be, if this works, it'll end up being very profitable for him, but he's willing to, for a queen country, take the risk and put his own money into it and see how it goes. And she's like, thank God, God bless you, right? Done. She tells him, you have 7 years to make a go of this. Which sounds like a long time. I mean, I look back now when I was 30, I'm 37 now. That's a long time. There's a lot that's happened, right? But don't forget the time frame. Don't forget we're talking 1500s, right? Don't forget you spend a year of that could be spent at sea, going back and forth and building your colony. So it's realistic, it's not extravagant, right? But she said, I'll give you 7 years, and if it works, phenomenal. If not, well, guess what? Hopefully in 7 years, we'll be able to do this ourselves and go a different direction. It sounds great to me. 1, 2, 3, go. But where are they going to go? That'd be the question. So, now, of course, if all his money is going to go into this, he wants to know where his money is going. So he's going to be a part of the first sailing expedition to the New World, see what's left. Pick where they're going to be, see what's left, right? He and 2 scouts, long story short, will come across an island. And by not, I mean a big chunk of land. People think of islands, they think of things like Crete, which are small. Basically like, Bermuda, which is beautiful, but it's like a mile long. This is a massive, massive chunk of land. Plenty of land, to build on, to get their start on. It's right off the coast of present-day North Carolina. They get to the south end of the island. It's very navigatable, which again is important because all that's going to be happening are ships coming in and out, carrying people, supplies, goods, importing and exporting. It's navigatable. I mean, North Carolina, dear Lord, the climate is great. The land seems to be fertile in soil. There's tons of land for the taking. They do meet 2 Indian tribes who live on the island. Eastern Woodland, open, curious, but friendly, welcoming. The Croatans, the Sectuations, and they say, oh my dear God, this is the perfect place to get our feet wet and build. Plus, it's a little bit isolated. We don't have to worry about Spain coming after us, right? This is perfect. So they sail back, they've got another patient. Raleigh knows with his own eyes where it's going to be. And from this point on, he's just going to write the checks. Because now, now we're going to send people over to this location to build a colony. He needs a governor. He needs a Jacques Cartier. He needs a Hernan Cortez, right? So he's going to post a job opening on ZipRecruiter.com, right? Indeed. And basically lay out the description. He needs someone who's willing, who he can pay, but who'll be willing to find it or to be in charge of this voyage and be in charge of building the first ever English colony in the New World. Well, lots of resumes I'm sure come in, but the man who was selected not only lied on his resume, he lied in his interview. Because on paper, he seemed like the perfect choice. His name was Sir Richard Grenville. And he was not. He was arrogant. He was hot-tempered. He was rash. He did not work well with others. And he was opinionated. Long story short, so the first group of colonists go over to Roanoke with the goal of hopefully building this colony. They'll take roots down in the first colony. And they're supposed to settle the south end of the island. Right off the bat, Grenville doesn't like the south end of the island. Don't forget, it's a massive chunk of land. He likes the north end of the island. He likes it better. But the coast is rocky, the current is rough, and right off the bat, ships are running aground on rocks. Ships are getting stuck. Ships are sinking. Anyone else would be like, whoop, this is a mistake. Let's go to the south end of the island. Nope. Grenville still likes the north end. That's where they're going to settle. Everyone needs to get over and deal with it. And already people are going, oh, no. Right? Clear sign of, uh-oh, what's to come. But they get off. They start to set down roots. Very quickly, the Indians come and look at them to who's here. And everything is going okay. The Indians seem to be alright with them being there. They start to build the first colony. And things are going okay. Not great, but okay. Until one day, a silver cup goes missing. And this must have been the most important silver cup in the history of silver cups. Because all hell is fixing to break loose over this one cup. Make her over time. We're about 7 slides behind. We were going to finish this up and start chapter 3 the way we did last time. We were a little behind, but you know what? We're okay. We'll still get caught up. This is Lost Colony, by the way. This should be a clue of what's fixing, what the hell is fixing to occur. But we'll we'll put the bookmark there. And when I see you on Thursday, we'll finish up the rest of the story and we'll get into the heart of chapter 3. See what's next to come. So y'all go have a great Tuesday, and I will catch you lovely peoples later.